Good morning, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, August 6th. A beautiful morning, slightly on the warm side. It's 80 degrees already, and it's only a little after 7. It was a lot cooler yesterday morning. I was working out in the yard a little yesterday for the first couple of hours till about 9 o'clock. Things are still doing well. Of course, now it's high summer. Here you can see how tall this angel's trumpet has reached. It's almost to the top of the house. White crepe myrtle. It's leaning way over because it rained last night. Thank God for that. It has been very, very hot. My air conditioning has been running pretty much all day long. It got up to 100 yesterday. Here you see the litter from the crepe myrtle. Having grown up north, it kind of reminds me of snow. Everything here is doing really well. I did transplant a few things. Bought some new plants this week. This papyrus is doing well. There's always one out of two that does really well. This one's doing okay, but not as well as the other one. I did clean up my roses this week. You have to harvest them. The roses themselves, the plants, do very well in the heat. The flowers, not so much. Like this flower just opened today. That one opened yesterday. So if you want to save your flowers, you need to cut them and bring them in. I have noticed some peripheral damage of the heat wave that we've been having. It's fried some of the new growth on top of my camellia arch, which is okay because I keep it trimmed there anyway, so it saves me trimming. I just have a few sprigs here and there to trim down. I did notice that I am being blessed. You see these little circular holes in the new growth on my roses. That is from the solitary leaf cutter bee. They use those as a cap to cover their nests. They may be a blessing, but I sure wish they would bless someone else up and down the street. I did rework this little trough. I do like vincas. Vincas seem to perform really well here for us in the heat. They don't require, well, I water every day, everything in a pot. But they don't tend to wilt as much as some other things do. I'm just grabbing a little sip of coffee. I did clean up my bananas. By clean up, I mean limb them up. This way the plants underneath get a chance to grow. Oh, Miss Mimi wants to come out. Oscar hasn't eaten yet, so this may be a mistake, but we'll see what happens. Come on out. It is a little sticky right now. Here you can see this cutting I took last year of the white angel's trumpet is blooming. I'm going to have to fertilize it. I fertilize it at least once a month. I have a blossom on my hosta. I need to clean up the bottom edge of the hosta a little bit. I have to be careful walking down this ramp because it can be slippery. Ooh, there's a little bit of a breeze when you get out into the yard. I am sprayed down with Deep Woods Off. Regular off apparently doesn't work anymore with the mosquitoes we have. They'll land on it and bite you like you hadn't sprayed yourself at all. Everything here is really thickened out nicely. Looks like the mandevilla got beat yesterday from the rains. My air potato is doing well. Oh, I see a little bit of holes in them. I don't see any beetles. I think there were lily beetles because they attacked my Easter lilies first a few years back, and they seem to go straight to the air potato, and they really decimated it. Didn't kill it, but ate all of the leaves to pretty much nothing but the veins. I just saw something jump in the grass. Must have been an anole. This is looking very lush in here. You can see one of my liriopes is blooming in the background. I kind of want this to look like a little bit of a wild jungle. I did trim up these boxwoods this week. And I've decided to leave the plumbago. Right now the flowers haven't opened fully, but just let it do what it wants to do on top of the hedge or wherever. Sometimes plants are like children. They don't necessarily do what you want them to do, but it turns out okay in the end. This Nico Blue hydrangea has really shot up. I need to get at the ladder that's kept back through that little area. I'll have to be very careful getting it out. This is the one garden I should say in the backyard that I don't put leaves on, so it has a lot of little weeds right now. Nothing to suppress it. Miss Mimi is looking cautiously for you-know-who. He hasn't come to eat yet, so he will be around eventually. I bought some Gara this week. Planted it in these pots where I had chrysanthemums. I'm not really crazy about Gara because it can be wispy looking, but it kind of looks like butterflies. That plant is blooming back in there as well. It likes the shade. And I harvested some bay leaves from this earlier this year and dried them. And yesterday I made some gumbo to use up some okra that I had harvested from the front. And mercifully, the okra disappeared in the gumbo and just added flavor to it. You can tell I'm getting sick of eating okra. But what I wound up making was a sausage, shrimp, and mushroom gumbo. I cheated. I started with a box mix from the grocery store and just added a carrot, celery, an onion, some sausage, rice, and then at the last minute I threw in some shrimp. Came out really good. I'm going to have that for lunch today. Here you can see the butterfly ginger. Wish you could smell it. It is very fragrant, very sweet. I need to stake this one up, but I've run out of stakes for now, so I have them around in the front. I'll just have to bring them back here to uncover my hedge. This hydrangea has grown quite a lot as well. The flowers do start out kind of white. They will turn blue, then eventually turn that yellow-green and then brown. Here you can see this plumbago is in the sun, and I let it do the same thing. Last year I cut it back, tried to keep it small, and all that did was stop it from blooming. So I thought just let it run rampant all over everything. And as long as I keep the shrubs cut, the boxwoods cut in front, it'll look okay. Oh, before I forget, the Gara is what reminded me. Lowe's. This is not a commercial for Lowe's. However, I learned something that you're not going to hear anywhere else on YouTube. And that is, Lowe's, of course, has a 1-year guarantee on their trees, shrubs, and perennials. What that means is if you spend the money, which is really expensive now, I don't know if you've looked at things, plants in general, but basically if you save your receipt and the tree, shrub, or perennial dies within a year, bring the plant and your receipt back to Lowe's and they will refund your money. Now that's not earth-shattering. The earth-shattering bit is that I asked them, I said, well, what about annuals or inside plants? They're not covered by the 1-year warranty. And I looked up on their website and I actually asked a manager at a Lowe's, and indeed, the story on that is, other than the trees, shrubs, and perennials that are guaranteed for 1 year, get this, write this down, everything else has a 90-day warranty. So if you buy a potted plant and it dies within 90 days, bring your receipt and the dead plant, and you'll either get your money back or a replacement. Of course, having said that, I lost the receipt to the Gara, so I won't be able to get my money back on that. The sun really looks nice, shining on that fountain. The fruit on this pindo palm does not ripen this year. There you can see up there the little green fruits, which is okay. They will turn orange, and I don't particularly like the smell of them. But what has happened here is the squirrels have taken a liking to the fruit, and so they eat it before it ripens, because on the other side of this fence there's a bird feeder. So, which is good. The fruit can be messy as it drops to the ground. So this year all of my pindo fruit is being eaten by the squirrels. By the way, that's one of the reasons the banana trees are where they are. Because years ago I had them against the fence underneath my Canary Island date palm to fill that void. Of course, it wasn't that much of a void years ago because I had 2 huge oak trees on either side of the date palm. But we had a hot spell like we're in now, and it was dry, and the squirrels would run along the fence, and I had the bananas, of course, in the back of that bed against the fence, and they discovered that the new shoots of a banana were quite tasty and juicy. And bananas can grow about 4 or 5 inches a day, and squirrels would nibble 4 or 5 inches a day. So it got very frustrating. Eventually, they never ate anything other than the growing tip of the banana, which means you've got a stunted banana tree that's never going to get any bigger. And so I dug them up and planted them next to the deck, so that way it was harder for squirrels to jump on them and eat them. And they have kept away from them, so that's a good thing. Back in this corner, you can see the white angel's trumpet, again from a cutting. It's not quite as fragrant this time in the morning. They tend to have most fragrance at night. David's looking spectacular in the sunshine. I did clean up some of the fatsias because they had some browning. I need to come in here yet and clip some of these. This area is coming together nicely. The blueberries have really taken over since they like the sun, or since they're exposed to sun. And I can't believe how tall this pecan is. It's got to be 5 foot tall, considering I didn't plant it and it sprouted up this year. I think we're going to have a nice tree there. The aspidistras are a little the worse for wear, and I'm going to wait till after this heat to go ahead and clean them up. There's still some green on them, and as long as there's some green on them, it's nourishing the roots. I have more vinca there. That particular vinca gets more sun than the other four, or the other three, I should say. I have them along the fence that I installed this year when the tree came out. I may flip-flop them around because this one dries out a lot faster than any of the others. And since I have 4 identical ones, I can flip them around. It's gotten so hot, it's actually fried my hens and chicks. Lavender, and I forgot what kind of lavender this is. It's a very thick-leaved lavender. That does really well in the heat. And I can't get over this year that snowball viburnum in the corner back there has really, it's grown to the top of the fence. It didn't bloom this year. Hopefully next year it will. Get a little bit better view of the top of it. Here's where I spent a little bit of time staking up all the butterfly gingers back in there. I'll tell you the other thing that does exceptionally well, which should be no surprise to any of you that watch this channel, is this wandering dude, or Tradescantia. Really likes this weather. I've got it sort of spread throughout here. Try not to make you too dizzy. The bees really love it. They always come here first thing in the morning. I remember reading books on garden design, and one of the essentials, I forgot how many steps there were to making a good garden, but one thing was, depending on what book you're reading, it's either repetition or rhythm. Your garden must have rhythm. Really what rhythm means is I've got too damn many of these plants in this one spot, let me move them somewhere else and repeat them. So my garden has rhythm because I've spread the purple around. I don't give a lot of advice on gardening, I just sort of share what works for me. I've noticed, especially as I get older, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but most people that ask for advice really don't want advice. You kind of have to feel them out. Usually, when they ask for advice, they're really saying, "What do you think of my beautiful garden?" Which is fine, because all gardens are beautiful. But heaven forbid you should suggest something So I usually smile and say it's a beautiful garden, which it is. I'm not lying. Oh, here is a beautiful lily. I always have trouble remembering what kind of lily that is. I'll put it in the notes. It does have an unusual fragrance. It's very sweet. It's supposed to be milk and wine lily, but this one is all white. Milk and wine is red and white. This particular one has a fragrance of sweet mothballs. Not a particularly great fragrance, and the one in my front yard by the street has a more pleasant fragrance. But I was watching the bees. The bees were really attacking that. They were getting inside of the center of the flower and were really just rubbing themselves around in there. So it must have something that really attracts the big bumblebees. And speaking of bugs, I don't know about where you are, but this past week I have been, I guess I felt like a pharaoh, because I had a plague of flies around. And they started about this Thursday. Never had a fly in the house at all. And I went into the kitchen. Yeah, I'll let you in, Mimi. And there were about 30 of them all over this back window. Okay, I'm letting you in. And I killed them all. And every now and then I'll get one or two more. But rather than throw them out, I fed them to my nepenthes. Honest to God, there must be about 50 flies that I put in there over the last few days. In fact, I almost swear when I came out this morning, I heard the nepenthes burp. But there you have it for today. Just a quick walk around the backyard. I hope wherever you are, you're staying cool and you're keeping all of your plants and yourself hydrated. Take care for now. Have a good week.